They got the little baby. Thank you to our sponsors for today's video, Ionna, InfyPower, and Eaton. Ionna, North America's premier charging network. With unmatched commitment to elevating the customer experience, Ionna is opening America's roads to all EVs, giving drivers the coverage they need, the reliability they deserve, and the amenities they crave. Also, InfyPower, the largest EV charger module provider with over 3 million power modules running reliably worldwide. Their latest G2 collection features ultra-high power density and efficiency for EV charging and energy storage integration. InfyPower, innovation for your power. And Eaton. Eaton is a one-stop shop for implementing reliable and innovative EV charging infrastructure at your site. Across all applications, Eaton's EV charging infrastructure, hardware, and software gives you the scalability, flexibility, and intelligence you need to charge today and scale up tomorrow. Learn more at eaton.com/EVCI. Hello and welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video. You join me in the hills outside of Las Vegas, and behind me is the new J1.2 Audi E-Tron GT. On this channel, you and I have driven the Porsche Taycan and the Audi E-Tron GT previous generation thousands of miles. We've probably done over 100,000 miles in the J1 platform. And we've already gone through and talked about the new J1.2 Taycan, the PA as Porsche calls it, and Audi calls it the PI, the product improvement, but essentially the second generation facelift of the car. From a styling perspective, you know that not much changed. It was all under the hood, and man, is it the next generation of vehicles. It's really almost an insult to call this thing a facelift over the previous gen. We have 320 plus kilowatts of charging, absolute insane power, active ride suspension, which the Audi RS E-Tron GT has as well. We're super familiar with this car. We've done Nürburgring driving in the Turbo GT. We broke the Cannonball record in the Taycan rear drive. We know it all. Now it's time to figure out what the heck Audi has done to improve this product. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. It's going to be a little bit of a nerd video. It might be and feel somewhat repetitive to our Taycan content, and that's because it basically is a Taycan with an Audi badge. There are some changes. There's some tuning differences as well. They really wanted this car to have a different character than Taycan. Did it work? Does it have a different character? We'll be talking about that as well. So join me for a little bit of a convoluted video as I drive the new second generation Audi E-Tron GT for the first time. So what are we doing, 10 miles an hour? Got some ponies coming. Hey guys. Say hey, come on over. Well, we've just parked up our RS E-Tron GT and actually met one of our viewers who has this RS E-Tron GT. We're just asking him about the new one versus the old one. So pretty cool to get that difference. What the heck, you joined me at the hub? Well, yes, bad news. I didn't really shoot that much video when I attended this sort of single half-day drive event for the new E-Tron GT. It wasn't really conducive to video filming. We had to share a car with someone and, you know, whatever. It's all good, but that just means I'm going to give you basically all of the information here from the hub. We're going to nerd out about all of the changes from J1.1 to J1.2, a lot of which, again, like I mentioned, will sound familiar because we've run through all the Taycan changes many times on this channel. I'm going to tell you a little bit about pricing, what I expect to happen in the secondhand and depreciation market, because that's a real key thing with this particular car that needs to be brought up. And then at the end, after I run through sort of all of the objective upgrades and changes for this new generation, I will actually give you my driving review, and I'll share some clips of when I drove this very gently on a track. Audi really didn't say like, go send it and you had like a track to yourself. It was like a very controlled thing. And, you know, there's always nothing more annoying to me when we have a track and I can't drive fast. But I think we've got a great bit of information to run through. So let's do just that. So Audi's bringing two variants of this car to the US. We are getting the S E-Tron GT and the RS E-Tron GT Performance. And that's basically sort of like a mid-spec, all-wheel drive, still pretty spicy. And then the top crazy, not only just RS E-Tron GT, but the performance trim of that, which in Europe is, top trim. So we're getting all the cool stuff here. It still feels to me, and, this is the way E-Tron GT has always been, that the Taycan line, which is its sister car, which is why I'm going to keep bringing it up a bunch, sort of spans way outside of what Audi's offering. So you can go everything from a small battery rear drive Taycan all the way to a Taycan Turbo GT Weissach for $250,000. And that is such a wide breadth of availability in terms of options and specs and features. Audi has really slimmed that down, especially in the US market where we only get all-wheel drive, we only get the big battery. And so the starting price is actually significantly higher than Taycan is, but it doesn't go as high on the high end. When you compare the e-tron GT, the standard one, to like a 4S, and the RS e-tron GT Performance to like a Turbo or Turbo S, it kind of fits in the middle. It's got its own little carved out areas, but it also has quite a bit of its own Audi flair. And for some people, that's a good thing. For some people, it's not a good thing. My impression is actually the exterior. It's a good thing. I think this is an amazing looking car. If you look at that thumbnail photo of that blue e-tron GT, I had, fully spec'd RS slammed as low as I could get it to go. Man, does it look awesome. But then the interior is just a huge disappointment compared to the Porsche for me. And that's just my own impressions. But we'll run through all of that, of course. So I'm going to talk to you about the design tweaks and some style changes as we get through the video, but I want to talk hardware first. For those of you watching this video, this is really going to be talking about the upgrades from J1.2. The reason I'm calling J1.1 J1.2 is because the platform is J1, and then the .1 and .2 indicates pre and post refresh, and Audi calls it a product improvement. So it's crazy, like I mentioned in the intro as well, just how huge of an upgrade this car really has. The first is, let's talk the battery. So the battery pack fits into the same physical shape, same physical size, but not only does it have more capacity and charge way faster, it also weighs less, which is crazy. So huge upgrades to batteries. This is, without question, one of the best road tripping EVs on the market. The only thing that would be better in our market in the US would be a rear drive Taycan, just for a bit more efficiency. But if you're looking for a absolute monster mile muncher, this is the car. And it's got plug-in charge, it's got all the other great stuff, because the first generation e-tron GT really had a lot of problems getting plug-in charge working. That seems to be solved here. I talked to some product planners about that during this trip. And we set the Cannonball record in this car, essentially, the Taycan. We got the New York to LA time under 40 hours. That video's over on Out of Spec Motoring. We shaved over 5 hours off of our New York to LA time just from going from pre to post refresh. And of course, having a little bit better infrastructure helped as well. Just an insane upgrade from a battery pack standpoint. So let me hit you with the numbers. We've gone from Audi quotes, kind of annoying. If anyone from Audi's watching, you gotta stop doing this. They quote gross capacity of the battery pack, not usable. So they say they've gone from a 93.4 kilowatt hour battery pack to a 105 kilowatt hour battery pack. And while physically, yes, that's not it's not usable. So they've really gone from an 83.7 kilowatt hour battery, which is what was usable pre-refresh, now to a 97 kilowatt hour battery pack usable. And there's pretty big buffers on these cars. A lot of people full charge them all the time. Audi recommends an 80% daily charging limit. You can bump it to 100 if you want to. These things are that's the right size battery for this car. And the fact that it lost weight, it went from 1,405 pounds as a total battery enclosure down to 1,380 pounds. That's 25 pounds lost with that extra capacity. So not only did they add capacity, the cell chemistry makeup has changed. I believe it's 811 NMC now. So I think they've gone down in cobalt a little bit, if I remember correctly, which is a good thing. But then the performance just went absolutely wild, which really comes down to having an insane thermal management. They also use very power dense cells. And we could get into this in a future episode as to why these cars charge so well and hold the power so long. But that 320 kilowatt charging peak number that you and I have experienced so many times in our Taycan road trips is absolutely insane. And what's even more insane is it's repeatable. So the car's gone from 270 kilowatt peak to 320 kilowatt peak, but the curve is completely different. The old car used to peak at like 48% state of charge at 270 kilowatts, and then it would kind of come down. The new car, Audi, actually, I went through all of the documents they provided. Like, Audi's way underrating what this battery pack can do. I know, because I've probably done 80 charging sessions with this battery pack in Taycan. They tell me the tuning's the same. It will hold over 300 kilowatt charging power to 65% state of charge, assuming the temperatures and thermals are all good. So basically you plug in dead, you'll just rip full send to like usually high 50s, low 60s when you hit your maximum temperature, and then it'll come down to around 200 kilowatts, and you can hold that till pretty much 75, 80%. This is an absolute monster road tripper because not only do you get a big peak, you get a fat curve, and all of the area under the curve just means it's going to be a monster in the 10% challenge. And this J1.2 platform is the best road tripping EV we've ever run in our testing. By a mile, by a long shot. I think we were close to 200 miles of 80 mile per hour highway driving in our test after 15 minutes of charging. The next thing that comes close would be Lucid, and it was like 40 miles down, 50 miles down off of that. So we know that the road tripping capability of this car is insane. I can't stress it enough. If you want deep dives on the charging performance, deep dives on the thermal window as to where this thing can charge, by the way, a much improved thermal operating window as to where you can get high power charging compared to J1.1. Absolutely insane. 10 to 80% in 18 minutes. It's more capacity than before. So it was 21 and a half minutes on the smaller battery, and now it's 18 minutes on the bigger battery. Whoa. And preconditioning time, it actually will cool the battery down most of the time. When you select a high power charger in the nav, it will do on-route battery preconditioning because the target software tries to get you right at the coldest possible temperature for high power charging, so you get the most thermal headroom for your charging session. It's so well thought out. The thermal systems are amazing, and we have stress tested it, this battery pack, on the Autobahn, doing 200 mile an hour runs in the Taycan Turbo GT. I've done Nürburgring laps with this battery. We've done the Cannonball after doing the I-90 surge, which means we did over 6,000 miles of continuous nonstop driving, charging, discharging. The car never had a slightest BMS sway. It just ripped every single time. When I finished the Cannonball with Drew and Timon in that Taycan, the new generation, that car had done, like I mentioned, over 6,000 miles of consecutive DC charging and draining. The car had almost no sleep time on it. We parked it at the Portofino at 3% state of charge. We woke up the next morning expecting it to say like 12% or 0, or I don't know what we were expecting, and it showed 3% state of charge, just where we left it. Amazing. For those of you who have driven EVs and driven EVs hard over the years, it's those little things that just goes to show that insane German engineering when it comes to it. And this battery pack is a monster, and that is one of the most important reasons to get the second generation E-Tron GT over the first generation. It's another level. Now, that's not to say the first generation car isn't good. It's still a great car. It just kind of lacks some energy capacity. The charging is still amazing. It's still awesome. But now that the new car is out, holy smokes, it's another dimension, and no one realizes just how good it is. Okay, enough blabbering on about the new amazing battery pack. I should mention 320 kilowatt charging. Okay, pretty good. It's not so much about the peak. The Chinese cars we've been testing have been doing 400, 500, 600 kilowatt charging we've been talking about. So it feels a bit behind, but it just has that nice, fat, repeatable curve. And I'm really happy with that. Let's talk about what makes this thing go not just with the battery pack, but in terms of motors. So the entire powertrain system of the second generation car is either completely new in the case of the rear motor or heavily revised in the case of the front motor. Keep in mind it's dual permanent magnet motors, and the rear motor is the primary axle on this. Of course, you want a more powerful rear drive. So the total system horsepower of this vehicle is 914 horsepower, which is 275 horsepower over the old RS E-Tron GT. A 275 horsepower bump over the last car is insane. That's a massive power bump. And I should mention that 914 horsepower that I quoted is only in the RS E-Tron GT Performance. It's 0 to 60 in 2.4 seconds, and that number is only available when you activate launch control. Without launch control, without the boost mode, I think you're down 70 horsepower, or 70 kilowatts, 94 horsepower, if I remember correctly. I have it written down somewhere in my notes. But you do need launch control. It's a little bit annoying that they force you to do that, but that's the only way to give you the full juice off the line. The one that's going to be the volume seller is going to be the S E-Tron GT. Still gets that same amazing battery pack. It still has more power than the old RS E-Tron GT, which is hilarious. It's up 148 horsepower from the previous standard car, and it's 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds. That's the base one. Now, the pricing got crazy, so we'll get to that in a minute. So this is all asterisk with just absolutely astronomical pricing compared to before. But the power levels are there. You get 670 horsepower base, 914 horsepower max. I'll give you my driving review later on. I will say, I have to quantify, if you're only interested in electric cars for the power, it just doesn't have the punch of a Plaid. And it doesn't have the punch of a Turbo S Taycan, and especially not the Turbo GT that I've just most recently been driving. And to me, it felt, when I was driving I only drove the RS E-Tron GT Performance, which is a long name. I only drove the performance one. It's a heavy car, 914 horsepower. Yeah, it moves, it's effective, and I'm so jaded, and I recognize that, and you're going to see other reviewers go like, wow, this is the craziest experience of my life. It's just insane. I just didn't get that vibe. And the fact that it's so much more money than the competition with very comparable acceleration figures, especially when you look at like a Xiaomi SU7 Ultra or Xiaomi SU7 Max or a Tesla Model S Plaid. It's just not competitive from a horsepower to dollar value as to what's coming out onto the global market. Keep in mind, this is a global car going up against other cars that, yeah, maybe we won't get in the US like Xiaomi, of course, but we have a global audience. And that's why I'm bringing that car up. It just seems like the Germans, they just need to get to 1,000 horsepower. You know, I hate to be that guy. Maybe I don't hate to be that guy. We need 1,000 horsepower daily drivers. It's awesome. Rivian has 1,000 horsepower R1S. How does the top Audi not have 1,000 horsepower? We're so close. And we know the platform can support it because Turbo GT has over 1,000 horsepower. Put the big boy in here. I just feel like it's artificially nerfed a little bit. And it felt that way driving it too. I'm like, man, this thing doesn't even feel stressed launching off the line. I want to feel like it's ripping itself to bits. And look at me complaining about 900 horsepower. No one's going to have a lack of power. It freaking rips. One thing I will say, though, is it kind of just like targets flat power. So you get up to full power and then it just holds that. Some electric cars will kind of give you a ramp up to power where they'll give you like 90% and then the last 10% comes on over a 1 to 2 second period roll in. And it almost encourages you to keep your foot in the throttle. It's kind of fun. It's like, let me floor it and oh, there's more, there's more, there's more. And this is just like, here's everything. And that's kind of it. And it is very effective. It is very fast. And any normal person is just going to be blown away by this thing. But I just can't help but feel like it's not as competitive with cars that cost less. And especially, I know what this platform can do. It feels nerfed. So let's talk about what's changed from a drivetrain perspective. The modified front motor. The front motor's been modified with enhanced power electronics and a new inverter. I don't believe this car is silicon carbide inverters. I believe it's dual silicon, which is unusual. It's only the Turbo GT that got the silicon carbide rear inverter. And that's like a 900 amp pulse inverter. This is a 600 amp rear pulse inverter, if I remember correctly. Doesn't really totally matter because that's based off of course, many other factors in terms of getting power and the tuning and the throttle mapping. But the front motor's been adjusted and the rear motor's completely new. It has increased copper density of hairpin windings. It has a lighter rotor that's more compact. And even though it makes a significant power bump, again, weighs 22 pounds less than the old outgoing car in terms of the motor's weight. So 22 pounds less, more power, more efficiency, still a 2-speed on the rear axle. The shifting has gotten way smoother in the second generation, just in general, way less clunky, way less annoying. Still feel it, still feel like it's shouldn't be there. You don't need it. I mean, the Chinese have proven they can make the same power, same efficiency with a single gear. Tesla's proven it. Lucid's really proven it. And so I just feel like that's a kind of an old legacy solution that the 2-speed drives me crazy. It just is like, and you know, I'm friends with a lot of the Taycan engineers, so I know the stories behind it. Is, you know, they wanted to match Tesla, they wanted the acceleration and they wanted the range, and they had to put a 2-speed in there because they couldn't do it without it. So that's, you know, just shows that, okay, we've still got some, you know, German engineering maybe isn't always top all the time. Just my view. Even though I still love this car and love many things it stands for, but the 2-speed, that pisses me off to no end, especially when you're going like drive to reverse and it's clunking around depending on the drive mode. And, you know, it's in second gear and comfort mode. You mat the throttle. It's got a downshift, just weird. I felt like the tuning of the 2-speed was better in the e-tron than the Taycan stuff. But then I remembered that I was driving a rear drive Taycan that really you do feel the effects of the shifting way more. Because you don't have the front motor to do torque fill to fill in the gaps in between switching. So that is a clunky experience. And the Turbo GT has that really big motor in the back that probably isn't tuned as well. So my most recent Taycan experiences, both with the standard and the max trims, probably made me think that this was tuned better. But talking to the engineers, they said, no, it's pretty much the same tuning across the board. Let's talk about what makes it stop. Well, we've got a couple brake options. Before we get into regen, just want to talk about the physical hardware for a second. You have 3 braking options. You have a standard steel braking option, which is going to be fine for like 99% of people. There's a sort of like a silicon coated, Porsche calls it the Porsche surface coated brakes. I can't remember what Audi calls it, but it's essentially this coating on the brakes that helps prevent brake dust, maybe has some performance benefits. The cost to replace those rotors goes up significantly. I'm not sure it's totally worth it. I would either go for the standard option, or if you're going RS E-Tron GT Performance, go for the ceramics, because that's when you get the maximum braking force. And this is a really heavy car, and you want as much thermal capacity in that braking package as possible. And also the way it's packaged, when you get the ceramics, you get the suspension. And I think if you're going for the RS E-Tron GT, you just get it with all the good stuff. And it comes ceramics, comes suspension with the, sort of performance pack or whatever they call it. I'm not 100% sure. But that would be my recommendation. So you get 3 different braking options. I think you go standard with the standard car, which is going to be fine for most people, or go maxed out. And the regen has changed quite a bit. So it's gone from 290 kilowatt peak regen to 400 kilowatt peak regen. It can regen through ABS, which is great. That's really hard to do, by the way. That requires a lot of tuning. It does regen through ABS. And we should also mention the fact that the 400 kilowatt regen peak is sustained over a wider temperature range and a wider state of charge range. Of course, you won't get this if the battery's full or cold, but it is nice, especially when driving hard on a mountain road, to recapture as much energy as possible so you can stay out there longer. There's also regen paddles on the steering wheel, just like with most e-trons. We own an e-tron, by the way. For those of you who don't know, we have a full-size e-tron. Love it. It's been great. And we also have paddles on the steering wheel. You can essentially, they've broadened the effect that those paddles have on increasing or decreasing regen. It goes from 0.07 G to 0.13 G. Still no one pedal driving, which is insane, because Audi, this is a topic for another day, Audi doesn't know how an Audi should drive. Q4 e-tron has creep with no one pedal drive. Q6 e-tron has one pedal drive available. Q8 e-tron has no one pedal drive available, and then differences with regen paddles and brake-by-wire and some interesting things. And then e-Tron GT also has no one pedal driving, but then more regen with the paddles. So each Audi model drives completely differently. And I think that's just a core brand problem that Audi has right now, which is we're not really sure what an Audi is supposed to be. And that's been my major problem with this brand is I want to see some character. I want them to say, this is how an Audi should drive and all cars will perform this way because this is our philosophy. Just like Tesla has one pedal driving, Rivian has one pedal driving, Porsche does not have one pedal driving. Whether you agree or disagree, at least you can get a sense of what the companies are thinking. It just feels to me like Audi's just taking whatever from the Volkswagen Group's parts bin and using all these platform sharings, and they don't have an opinion. And that drives me crazy. I want to know how an Audi should drive. Tell me, make the cars all drive similar with similar, input strategies. That's just my view. Am I being off base here? I hope not, but it's annoying. Okay, so anyway, that's all about regen and braking. The car's super heavy. I'm going to share a clip with you towards the end of this video of me slamming on the brakes, and it just, we weren't on like a super grippy tire, but like, man, these things do weigh a lot and they go real fast, real quick. The numbers climb up quick. So I think if you're going to drive it hard, get the big brakes. Let's talk about suspension because that is completely new for this new generation. And by the way, if anyone wants even more details, even more nerd stuff, I did like a super long Taycan deep dive on J1.2. I went over to Germany, met with all the engineers and produced some content around that. Definitely check that video out because it was really fun, and I'll leave that linked in the description. Again, most of it transfers over. So on the previous car, you had actually a tri-chamber option for air, but a single valve for the damper adjustment. Now the new standard is better than the previous system. It's a dual chamber air with 2 valve adjustment standard. That means compression and rebound adjustable. And that is going to be on almost every e-Tron GT, S or RS. And I think that's going to be fine. I did not experience it. I'm sure it's going to be tuned really well. I'm sure it's going to be very similar to Taycan. Audi in the US for the media fleet, for like the review cars, didn't even bring any standard ones in, which is kind of annoying from my side because I think that's going to be the volume seller. And I always try to drive what I think you guys will buy. And the standard car is probably going to drive great, but I have no idea. So the only one that I drove was the RS e-Tron GT Performance. I keep saying that, but with that extra package that then gives you the active suspension. And it's really unusual. I don't know what the take rate is going to be because it's probably going to be like less than 10% of all e-Tron GTs will have this suspension system, but it was such a huge focus of Audi to show this to us, which that's kind of annoying from my side, but it's nothing new for you or I because you and I have experienced Porsche Active Ride both in Panamera and Taycan many times on this channel. We've talked about it driving hard. We've talked about it in daily driving. Identical system here. So this system essentially fits into where the old 48 volt dynamic sway bar connection used to sit in Taycan. And it's essentially this is just on the front axle I'm talking about. There's also in the rear, there's essentially a module that has 2 hydraulic pumps. Each are 5 kilowatts, silicon carbide, really cool permanent magnet motors that essentially are electro-hydraulic pumps that feed in, at super high frequency, the compression and rebound fluid into the damper. And so this actually replaces the physical need for a sway bar. So you have no sway bars. It's all done through hydraulics. Porsche calls it Porsche Active Ride. It's really that tech. Audi calls it active air suspension, I think. It's nothing else fancy. They don't call it like Audi suspension magic, whatever. But you have those 4 hydraulic pumps and they all work perfectly and the tuning is insane and it makes the car do some absolutely magical things when you're driving hard. For example, when I was on the Nürburgring recently with a J1.2 car at Porsche, of course, I was coming out of a corner just a little bit too hard and I was just getting some lift off or some power on oversteer. And I was like trying to get some forward momentum. I could feel the front motor doing everything it could to pull me out. And I've got probably 90 degrees of opposite lock, nothing too crazy. And then I just felt that rear outside suspension jam that outside rear tire into the pavement. I just felt the whole car kind of go, whoop. I was like, whoa. And it just hooked up and man, did I shoot out of that corner. So the dynamics possibilities unlocked by the tuning of this system is truly incredible. Now, we've seen a lot of cars companies put in really cool hardware and then not tune them properly, Rivian. However, here with Audi and Porsche, they put in the correct hardware and then they spend years tuning the system almost to a fault because they just try to dial it in every scenario. And what that means to the end user is a totally natural and intuitive and incredible suspension system. I cannot recommend this enough. From a performance driving scenario, absolutely insane, but also from a comfort perspective. Because now you have so much more control over the car, you can relax this thing all the way down. It also means that you can hit, for example, if you're on an uneven surface road and a tire dips into a bump, you get no head toss because now you have completely unlinked suspension systems left and right cross car, which is amazing. So there's other comfort features too. If you grab the door handle, the car will shoot up. We've seen it with Taycan a million times. Awesome. And this suspension system runs completely off of the 800 volt battery pack. And again, I say 800 volt as an 800 volt class. The battery can hit 800 volts, but it's a wide range of, like mid sixes to low 800 range and dead to full. But it runs directly off that battery pack, which brings up another point that I wasn't really planning on getting super nerdy in this video, but in the pre-refresh e-tron GT, just as a little side note, you used to have a 12 volt system, a 48 volt system, a 400 volt system, and an 800 volt system. There was a very complicated electrical bus bar system. And all of your high voltage drive systems ran off of 800 volt. Your AC compressor ran off 400 volt. That active suspension that I talked about ran off the 48 volt, along with maybe one or two other things, but not too much. And then 12 volt ran all the car electronics. With the new car, you either get 12 volt or everything's 800 volts. That means more, the new AC compressor is amazing. It's very powerful, runs completely off 800 volts. Same with the suspension system. So much less complicated, so much better engineered than before. And I just love how they really just dialed in this whole system. Back to the active suspension system. There's some comfort features as well as, like I mentioned, the insane features when driving hard in the performance mode is why I really love this system. Plus the extra ride comfort that you get day to day. I think it's a no-brainer if you're spending up to get one of these things and you're already at the RS level because it's only available on RS e-tron GT performance as a top option. I really hope Audi brings this as a comfort option to the S e-tron GT, to the standard car, because it really can be a very comfort-oriented feature. You get these over-exaggeration modes, and I've made videos about this before, but when you hit this is only in comfort mode because it's considered a comfort function. I don't really like it, to be honest, because it makes the car feel weird. It means you turn and it leans into a corner, and the tuning's totally different from Porsche on this, by the way. So it has an over exaggeration of acceleration and deceleration compensation. What it means is when you hit the throttle, the rear picks up, the nose tucks, and you helicopter forwards. When you hit the brakes, it feels like the rear end drags down and the front comes up. And to me, it just feels totally unnatural for the way the car should do. The idea is to take the forces off your body. To me, it feels a bit awkward, and Audi over accentuated that acceleration and deceleration helicopter mode compared to Porsche. It actually drives very similar to, I drove a very early pre-series version of this system a couple years ago now, I guess, where was I? I was at the Leipzig factory, and I jumped in a Panamera Turbo SE hybrid, plug-in hybrid, that had like a early tuned version of the system. And that felt almost identical to the helicopter mode in the Audi that I experienced. Porsche kind of tuned that down a little bit, which I commend them for. Audi also doesn't lean into the corners as much as Porsche, which I thought was odd because you're either going over exaggeration-y or not. But when you turn right, it bumps up the left side of the car. And it means that instead of getting pushed into the door pocket, your butt gets pushed into the seat a little bit. That I can get on with a little bit more than the helicopter mode, and you can individually turn on and off those functions in comfort mode, which is really nice. So again, lots of adjustability, lots of customization. The car's already so expensive. I wish this was available across the entire e-tron range in the US, not just on the top car, because it's an amazing suspension system. I can't say enough nice things about it, but we know it's extremely expensive because I think on a Taycan it's $7,000.
on top of the car. So it's like super complicated, very expensive, probably maintenance, we'll hear the comments. I don't know. I have experienced an issue with this system. I had a Taycan Turbo S in the UAE recently, and it threw a suspension fault, and the whole car was like, like totally cockeyed. I turned it off, turned it on, and it came back. But I don't know. Maybe if you're going to keep this thing out of warranty, don't go for that, to be totally honest. I'm not sure. I can just say I've had an issue with this suspension system. And that's in our UAE road trip that I put on Out of Spec Motoring just recently. So that's most of the like hardcore physical components of the car. It's just another level from before. I want to talk a little bit about styling, interior and exterior. The first is you have some new buttons on the steering wheel. Oh, can I talk about how garbage this new steering wheel is, by the way? In a Porsche, you get a round steering wheel. Steering wheels should be round. Maybe you could get away with a flat bottom wheel if you have 3 pedals and you want to leave room for heel toe. I can get that. But this has a flat top and a flat bottom wheel. I think there's nothing more I hate than that. First of all of the cars I drove 2 different ones. Both were slightly off on alignment. And at first I thought it was because I was driving in the right lane, adjusting for crown in the road and like just kind of steering into the crown a little bit. But because you have this flat top bar on the wheel, you notice every millimeter of movement in terms of which way the wheel is angled. And the entire time it was just driving me crazy that I just had a little bit of left lock wherever I went. And I even drove in the left lane where, the crown goes and you got to turn right. I could almost get the wheel back to center then, but even if it was completely center, I'd go to the right. So that was a little bit annoying. So your alignment has to be perfect with this steering wheel without driving you insane, unless you're not like me and you're a normal person and this wouldn't bother you, but it drove me insane. I also just don't like feeding the wheel through my hand. They used this pebble texture on it. I drove one car that had an Alcantara package. I drove another one that had a pebble leathered package. I hate pebbled leather personally. I much prefer like a smooth texture, Napa leather around the whole wheel. Audi's very famous for doing this pebbled leather. To me, it traps hand oils. It gets greasy. It's hard to clean. I don't want that. If I bought an e-tron GT, I would swap a Porsche steering wheel onto it and be very happy with the rest of my life. That's what I would do. I hate the steering wheel of this car. It also just looks ugly too. Like the Audi logo looks cheaper than before. The buttons don't feel nearly as good as before. They have these little capacitive buttons everywhere. And just the Porsche wheel's a 100 times better experience and for less money if you just get a base rear drive Taycan. So that really drove me nuts and cheapened the interior feel of the entire car. On the steering wheel, though, there's 2 new modes, 2 new buttons at the sort of bottom of the wheel. You have an RS button that allows you to cycle through your drive modes without going into the dynamic select and then selecting on your Audi MMI. You also have a boost button on the left, which is sort of like a push to pass function that's what gives you the extra 70 kilowatts or 94 horsepower for 10 seconds to give you that 900 whatever. Same as launch control. I'm not sure if the car makes a little bit more power in launch control than with the boost button. I think maybe, not 100% sure. Either way, I hate the idea of a boost function. When my foot hits the floor, that means one thing: give me everything you got. I don't want to then have to be like, I'm in the middle of the corner trying to get out and get the straightaway and then look for the stupid button. Am I in the 10-second window? I don't know. When I go full throttle, in my view, that means give me everything you got. And if something's hot, if something's about to explode, then just derate. I don't want to have to hit a button to get full power. And we're seeing so many electric cars do this now. We're seeing Hyundai Ioniq 5N go this route. We're even seeing the Dodge Charger EV have that power shot button. Yeah, I hate boost buttons. Why? I'm telling you to go full throttle. When my foot hits the floor, go full throttle. I don't want to have to then think about hitting another button. To me, that's a real annoyance. I was annoyed with it in the Taycan. At least with Taycan Turbo GT, you have a paddle on the right side of the wheel. Also, still prefer not having that. I really hope this trend doesn't continue because it just doesn't fit with the driver in me. It just doesn't really work with me. There's also a boost mode indication in the instrument cluster to tell you when it's available, when it's in use, and it's just a little tiny thing and it changes color and it's not too exciting. On the exterior of the car, not much has changed, thankfully, because the e-tron GT was already a gorgeous car. And there's only one body style variant of this vehicle. We all know Taycan has 3. You have the sedan, the Sport Turismo, and the Cross Turismo. Here in the Audi, you only get the sedan. and it looks incredible. The front of this car is drop dead gorgeous. It has a new grille. It has some new accents. The rear of this car, way more aggressive, nice big diffuser in the back, vertical sort of reflector lamp that I think looks amazing on the back of the car as well. I actually never really loved the rear end of the previous generation e-tron GT, but whatever they've done with this new one, it works for me. It's awesome. I used to say the Taycan always looked better than the Audi. I actually think now with the refresh, the Audi's got the edge, especially with these new RS wheels. These wheels are amazing. You either get 20-inch wheels or 21-inch wheels, many different designs available. Go on the configurator and look at them. I actually think none of them are bad. They're all pretty good, which is unusual for me. Really like them. There's also new colors available, and you can do like an Audi exclusive color situation. Now we need to get to the real elephant in the room here, because none of this matters, because here's why I think it's a really hard sell to buy this car, or a hard recommendation from my side. The depreciation and the price. Now, every new car depreciates, right? We've been through this so many times. We review new cars on this channel. A lot of people just buy new cars and they lose money. I mean, we've been through it. You've probably experienced depreciation. I just did a video yesterday on leasing versus buying your new EV. Here's the thing. The car got way more expensive. So the standard S e-tron GT is now $125,000, $125,500, no options. I don't even know if that includes destination or delivery. It used to be $106,000. So it basically just 20 grand tacked on the roof. Now, yes, you get the big battery, you get the new motors, you get so much. So to me, the value there is totally worth it. To me, I'm not so sure the market will agree with this increased price. We're already seeing it with Taycans. People are really afraid to buy these things because of the risk of not just normal depreciation, but insane depreciation. All day long, you can find a first-generation Audi e-tron GT for around $40,000 in the US right now. If you want an RS, okay, maybe it's a little bit more, low mileage, but you can buy these cars in the $40,000 range. That's the first gen. The second gen is going to hold a bit of a premium, of course, and it's going to take some time for them to really depreciate, but I don't think that much time. And that's the standard car. The car I drove, the blue car in the video, $190,000, almost 200 grand. This car, I have no words. That's crazy. It's getting so expensive because yes, it's a wonderfully driving car. And yes, it has some of the best chassis performance and suspension tuning and brake pedal and power and all these things. It just has so many attributes going for it. But then there's so many little things it's completely missing against the rest of the car buying competition. It doesn't have great driver assistance. It has lane centering on the highway, just like basic lane centering, no automatic lane changes or anything like that. Just kind of stays in the lane. And that's fine for what most people are looking for. But I own a Model S Plaid as an example. I've had it for years. And that car has gotten so much better through over-the-air software updates that I didn't even drive here to make this video. I just hit a button and then I just show up. And yeah, you got to look and monitor and make sure things are good. And I get it's not for everyone, especially not the buyer of this car, clearly. But I would love to see some real competition coming into the driver assistance space, especially when the car I drove cost almost double the cost of a Model S Plaid. Absolutely insane pricing. And so I would be okay with the pricing if I was able to tell you guys, hey, you know what? It's an exclusive car. It's low volume, which they are. They're going to hold their value really well, and maybe you'll only lose a little bit of money. I think there's no bottom to these things. And it's really unfortunate because I want one. I want a J1.2 car. I want a Taycan or e-tron GT. I'm personally too afraid to risk the depreciation. I've been through it on so many cars. I've been through it on my Model S, but that's also because the manufacturer lowered the price so much on that car. But the fact that the car I drove was 190 grand. By the time you put tax on there, it's a $200,000 car. Crazy. So if you're going to do one of these things, lease it. Audi's probably going to have some great lease deals on them. They had some amazing lease deals on the pre-refresh. The car itself is amazing. Like from a car review standpoint, there's very few cars that drive nearly as refined, nearly with the same presence on the road, the stability at high speed, the way these things can just munch miles. Almost nothing else can do it. Truly. It is in a league of its own, along with its brother, the Taycan. Just lease them. Do not buy a new one. Buy a used one all day long. I can't wait till they come really cheap. We won't have to wait long. I'm just preaching to you about this because I really don't want to see you guys get screwed. So many of our viewers got screwed on first generation e-tron GTs and Taycans. I met an e-tron GT owner in this video like you saw at the beginning. He got screwed on depreciation. It's just a rough reality that we're living in right now. And I should mention, this is before we even hear about what's going on with the tariff situation for imports. This car could be a $200 and something thousand car by the time this video goes up on the 2nd, which is when the tariffs are supposed to go in on April 2nd. So anyway, big cautionary tale from my side. Lease it and just wait a bit because the lease deals will come. That's my impression. Let me finish up with my final thoughts, my driving experience and review. I'm going to play a couple clips for you where I drove on track with one of the lead engineers, Stefan Ryle, I believe is his name. Really awesome guy. And by driving on track, like we're driving around pretty slow, but he wanted to show me and all the other media that were there the difference between having the extra comfort functions of the active suspension control on versus off. And we've experienced this many times, but I'll share a couple clips of launch control, full brakes, just some conversation we had in the car, and then I'll give you my driving impression of the vehicle.
Yep. Not so much traction there. And then you tell me when you want me to lift, okay?
Well, you see the cones.
Yeah.
Just hit the brakes at the cone.
No problem. This is where you feel the weight.
Yeah.
And can we drive quickly through here or no?
Yeah, but let me just switch to the comfort mode.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay.
So comfort's all off now.
So now we are in comfort and the compensations functions are off.
So this is standard, basically.
Yeah.
Got it.
Now try to remember how, for the next lap, how the car is rolling.
But it still is
without
working.
the yeah, of course. Well, it's an active suspension.
Yeah.
But our philosophy was to give, because the driver has learned over years that the car is rolling at the edge.
Yep.
And if you miss that information,
Mm-hmm.
so then you feel uncomfortable.
Sure.
It's spooky.
Let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, go.
Okay. 3,
Yep.
2, 1. Launch control.
Yep.
And awesome launch that time.
Yeah.
Really hooked up. Absolutely boogies. Man, is this thing quick. You don't need any more, that's for
Yeah.
sure. And nice ABS feedback in the pedal as well.
Mhm.
They did a really nice job with that, especially with the ceramics. I think
Yeah.
that's nice. And I know we're not here to set any lap records, Stefan, but you did put me on a track in your car, so. Yeah, this is where it's just so nice.
What I like on the active suspension is, well, you can cut corners over the curbs.
Yeah, and it's smooth.
Yeah,
and no
it's,
head toss.
Yeah, and you don't destabilize the car.
Right.
Okay, we go to that right cone and
Yep.
back to the pit lane.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for the ride.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Well, guys, there you go. You can see we just had a little bit of a quick blast on track. I got to open it up a little bit towards the end. Nothing fancy. We know how these things drive, though, and they just drive amazing. These cars are absolutely insane. And let's talk about that. So driving on the road, in the city, on the highway, this is super maneuverable. The one I drove was equipped with rear steer. It has almost 3 degrees of rear steer. Audi has tightened up the steering ratio in the car as well, so it's more responsive, better feel, and has the rear steer. So the whole car is just so much more agile, more lively to move than before. Feels like just a huge step forward in terms of agility. And driving around the city, it's just got amazing presence. It's wide, it's long, it's beautiful. People look at it, and you just have the best, heavy throttle pedal that feels great, perfect steering weighting. Everything about driving this car is amazing. But you have to drive it everywhere, which some cars on the market, you don't have to drive at all anymore. I mean, for the most part. And that's a huge differentiator. And again, to some of you, it will matter. To some of you, it will not. I always want to see competition. I hate that Tesla is the only one with an FSD-like system available in the US. I want to see other car companies at least offer the option, and then you can choose to drive or to not to drive. And I think having the choice in real time is an amazing luxury that, unless you absolutely experience it, maybe most people won't appreciate. I think we can all agree it'd be nice to at least have the option. And this car does not have the option. Driving on the highway, that's where this thing shines. Triple digits comes without even thinking about it. And deep into the triple digits, thing only does 155, or it's got a pretty low speed limiter, allegedly. When you're deep in the triple digits, it's so stable. It's so stable. It's unbelievable. You can just do anything you want with this car at any time. It's geared for it. It's been tuned for it, especially with active suspension. Absolutely insane. It's quiet on the highway. It's the mile muncher. It is the road trip machine. You get an E-Tron GT and you just cross the country forever. It'd be amazing. Get that 320 kilowatt charging at every stop. I already talked about driver assistance. I want to mention the software in this car. No phone is a key. You don't have to hit the start button, which is nice. You can just get in and hit drive, hit park, exit, lock it. It shuts off. There is a start button. You don't have to use it. It's got a great sound system, but the software is like from the same as our 2019 Audi E-Tron. It's really no different. There are some specific functions, such as there's now a temperature gauge for the battery pack in here, which is really nice that we finally get some thermals going. There's also an RS mode in the screen that shows you extra thermal data in terms of not temperatures, but in terms of color coding. So I like that compared to the previous car, more temperature data is available. And yeah, the software, though, it's just a little bit slow. The route planning isn't as nearly as good as their Q6 e-tron. It does do on-route battery preconditioning. It does do plug and charge. And the route plan is like, okay, but always just double check it. Q6 really has that nailed. I wish that kind of made it here into the e-tron GT, but it's really not bad. You can trust it for the most part. And I'm very pleased with, it's an old school system, and that's the thing. How much can you excuse the old school system for when the car's so much money? Now, if you look at this as a sports car, as a driving experience, you can say, hey, I don't want to use the screens at all. But I would argue many people are looking at this as their one car solution, their daily driver, the one thing that can do it all. And the screens and the software, it's just so, basically 20-year-old tech that's just been dragged along into this system. And it's nowhere near what the Chinese are doing, nowhere near what Tesla's doing, Rivian or Lucid for that matter. And I think it's a real shame that they can't catch up on software and app integration. The Audi app sucks, by the way. I have it. It's terrible. So my final thoughts on the car. This is a driver's car. This is an enthusiast electric driver's car, which is a very targeted segment where you want an EV, you want an insane driving experience, and you want an insane road trip experience. What's funny is the guy presenting this video, this is who it's built for. It's actually built for me. And because it can cover distance so quickly, it can rip around tracks with great thermal management. Still no pre-chilling function like Taycan and some of the extra cooling functions that Taycan have when you go into Sport Plus, stuff like that. You never really hear the fans pre-chill here. I think that's a big miss from the RS e-tron GT, by the way. The platform supports extra cooling through software just by like pre-chilling. Why doesn't the top Audi have that? I don't know. I asked Stefan about that too. He was like, I don't know. Kind of a bummer. But who's the car for? It's for the road trip and driving enthusiast for EVs. It's a beautiful car. It's for the Audi, the previous generation owner who's able to get out of their car, which is very few people right now because a lot of them are upside down in their loans. But a lot of them should upgrade if they can, especially if they use the car for the intended purpose. I also feel like the robustness and the reliability and the overall quality of the car has gone up with the second generation compared to the first generation car. First generation cars are pretty buggy, lots of recalls, lots of service visits, lots of teething problems with Audi trying to figure out how to service these electric cars. I feel like the second gen just seems a little bit better put together, just as a gut feeling, nothing beyond that, just because I have so much experience with the first and second generation cars. The second gen cars, I've had no bugs with them. They've just been so rock solid, just absolutely amazing. And, so is the car worth the money? I would actually say yes. Like, the car is segment leading. along with its brother. But the market doesn't view it that way, at least not currently. And therefore, you're going to spend a lot of money for a new one, and you're going to have a car that's not worth that much at all on the secondary market. It might actually be the highest depreciating new car on sale. I can't think of a single vehicle that will depreciate faster than the RS E-Tron GT Performance at $190,000 with every option. That's going to be very quickly a $75,000 car on the secondary market. Every car depreciates. I keep harping on it. I'm giving you a new car review. It's just crazy. And it's kind of sad too, because the cars are worth the money. It's just that the buyers of most cars who are not out of spec viewers probably aren't enthusiasty enough or nerdy enough to appreciate what these cars can do. And that might be why the secondary market doesn't view them as favorably, and that's why maybe Audi has to really put some cash on the hood or have some artificially juiced leases to get these things moving, because there's just so few people right now that can understand the technology in this car, the tuning, the durability stuff that it's been through. And to me, I value that very highly. And that's why I'm so enthused with this car. I would just find the best lease you can on one and enjoy the hell out of it, because it really is an otherworldly experience, this or Taycan. And I think the Audi looks great, and some people will like the interior more than Porsche. That's very preferential. The Audi itself, great car, no question. J1.2 monster platform. Shout out to the Porsche engineers and the Audi engineers to make this car possible. The market needs this. Unfortunately, the market doesn't know it needs this. And that's my biggest fear with this. By the way, it's pretty cool that we saw some wild horses, wasn't it? So I'm sorry this isn't like my typical driving review where I have a bunch of on-location shoots with cameras in the car and stuff. I really just had no opportunity to film it, which is why I'm just presenting it to you in this podcast style. It's not how I like to do things, but it's what I was forced into. I hope I get the car for an extended period of time. I want to run it through the testing. I want to run it against Taycan. I want to see how it performs. If this video does well, I'll definitely go, make some more videos with RS E-Tron GT Performance. And I'll try and, if anyone buys an S E-Tron GT, let me know, because Audi is not putting them into the review fleet. So if one of our viewers has one, we can borrow. I know a lot of our viewers buy these types of cars. We're like very niche in that space. Let me know, because I'd love to make some videos with it, and you can join me as well. So shout out to Audi for inviting me to Vegas. I was actually there for EVCS, and then I popped over to do this event. Really fun. And no question, the car is amazing. Just some little cautionary money situations going there. It just got real expensive real quick. But again, the car is worth it. It's just maybe not worth that depreciation. I hope the market realizes how good this car is. The values can start to come up, because these things on the secondary market are just an insane buy right now. You should absolutely go buy a used e-tron GT all day long. The money is not a knock on the engineering or the amazing driving experience of the car. Thanks so much for watching another Out of Spec Reviews video. Let me know what you think about this. Would you go e-tron GT or Taycan? I struggle with that one myself. I'd probably go Taycan Cross Turismo. But if you ignore the Sport and Cross Turismo, sedan for sedan, e-tron GT or Taycan. Thanks for watching. See you on another one again soon. Bye-bye.